All right, so where we left off on the last video is we were talking about the placebo effect. So the placebo effect is basically that if I'm in the control group and I'm receiving a placebo, I'm not receiving the active experimental substance, I'm still having an effect because I expect to have an effect. So let's say that I'm a participant in a blind study testing a new sleeping medicine for insomnia. I'm told to take this pill every night, 30 minutes before I'm wanting to go to bed. I don't know if I'm actually getting the new sleeping pill or if I'm getting an aspirin, right? Let's say the aspirin is the placebo substance, the control substance. A real quick differentiation, if I didn't make this clear in the last video. Sometimes a control group can get a control substance that's not a placebo. So by definition, a placebo is an inactive substance. So there would be a difference between if I'm wanting to see if new sleeping medicine works better than established sleeping medicine, and maybe the control group gets the already established sleeping medicine, the already tested sleeping medicine, and the experimental group gets the new sleeping medicine, or anti-anxiety pill, or antidepressant, right? They're still a control group because they're getting a control substance, but in that case, it's not a placebo control. A placebo control, by definition, it's an inactive substance. So anyway, let's say I'm a participant in a double-blind study about this new sleeping pill. And I don't know if I'm getting the actual new sleeping pill, or if I'm in the placebo group and I'm getting an aspirin. Let's say I'm in the placebo group, the control group, and I don't know it. So what I'm getting is aspirin 30 minutes before I go to sleep. But I still start falling asleep easier and sleeping better. Maybe it's a mind thing, right? Maybe I'm getting this new sleeping pill. I feel so much more relaxed. And that's called a placebo effect. Something works because I have kind of this expectation that it will work. So related to the placebo effect, but not technically in the same category, is the Hawthorne effect. And the idea of the Hawthorne effect is that people behave differently when they're being watched. And the story behind why it's called the Hawthorne effect is really interesting. There were some researchers who were doing research in an office building. And what they said was, we're going to test out if changing the type of lighting we use makes you more productive. And so there's going to be guys wandering around in clipboards because some of the rooms have this new lighting. And there's going to be these guys wandering around in clipboards, and they're going to be documenting your work productivity. All throughout the company, the productivity levels skyrocketed. Everybody was working harder and being more productive because they were being watched. It had nothing to do with the light bulbs. It had to do with the guys wandering around with the clipboards recording what they were doing, right? So the idea behind the Hawthorne effect is that people behave differently whenever they are being watched. If I'm participating in an experiment, obviously I know that I'm being watched, and I'm going to act differently. The next thing, oh my goodness, I cannot put my button here. Where are we? Come on now. There we go. One more important term to be aware of, and then that'll be it for this unit. The idea of a confounding variable, an extraneous variable, a third factor variable. Now, I want to be very clear. These are not the exact same thing. There are slight variations in them. That's more than what we need to go into for the purposes of this course. For what's important to know for here is that this is the idea that there is a factor other than what is being directly studied that might be influencing this relationship. There's some other variable at play here that's affecting why this correlation is happening, or that's affecting why this experimental result is coming out the way it is. If you take research methods, you will differentiate between a confounding variable and an extraneous variable. So I don't want you sitting there thinking, well, but wait, in intro we learned they're the same thing. They're not exactly the same thing, but they're both external to what you're studying that could be impacting this relationship. A great example of when this was seen is there was a study that was done where some researchers were wanting to determine, so their hypothesis was, we know that whenever you don't get enough sleep, you have a higher level of stress hormones. We know that having a higher level of stress hormones can make you gain weight easier and can make it harder for you to lose weight. It's just a biological mechanism that happens. And so they were looking at people who were actively trying to lose weight. They were actively dieting. They were making lifestyle changes. And they wanted to see if adding in earlier bedtime, leading to more hours of sleep, increased the amount of weight that they lost. Because their idea was, biologically, this makes sense, because if they're sleeping more, maybe their stress hormones will be less, and maybe they'll be more successful in their weight loss goals that they're trying to personally reach. So, but they told them, do not change anything else. Don't do it. The only thing you're supposed to be doing that could be affecting your weight loss is going to bed earlier. That's it. Don't change anything. Well, the group that was going to bed earlier started losing much more weight. They were reporting more satisfaction with reaching their weight loss goals and all this. Well, then come to the end of the study, and they're reviewing their data they were collecting from the participants, and one thing they found was, by and large, almost all of them started exercising. They either started a new exercise program, or if they were already exercising, they started exercising more. And the researchers, like, what are you doing? We told you not to change anything. Obviously, starting to exercise is going to have an impact on your weight loss. And their response was, well, yeah, but when I was sleeping more, I had so much energy and I felt really good and I wanted to go for a walk, or I wanted to go for a jog, or I wanted to start doing that kickboxing class that my friend has been inviting me to for 2 years now. Like, sleeping more, they wanted to get out there and do that. And that would be an example of one of these confounding variables or extraneous variables. We can't say it was the increased sleep that was leading to the more successful weight loss attempts that they were engaging in, because they had also added in exercising, right? So our variables were being impacted in a way beyond, well, not all variables, I wasn't involved in the study, but for the researchers, their variables were being impacted beyond ways than what they were controlling for in their study. So that's one possible example of what that might look like. And that also has to do with what we talked about earlier. In an experiment, I need to make sure as the researcher that I have an appropriate amount of control, right? Because in that situation, I simply did not, the researcher, I use I, but the researcher simply would not have the power to say, okay, start sleeping more, but don't change anything else. Because that's just not how human nature works. Like that power did not exist to manipulate that variable and only that variable. So hopefully that helps make this chapter, this unit, a little easier to understand in terms of some of the important key terms and concepts. If there's something that's still cloudy after you've watched the video and read the chapter, feel free to shoot me an email. We can discuss it further. If I get the same email about a lot of things, I'll make another one of those little mini videos, like what I'm doing for the correlations and the independent and dependent variables. So communicate with me, let me know. Otherwise, best of luck getting this unit finished up.